Hey guys, it's Mr. Zarea here from Landrum Middle School. Today we're going to take a look at this machine which is called the Radial arm saw. This is a machine that you guys are going to be using a lot, so we definitely need to be prepared and understand and know how to use it. Before we do anything though, we need to make sure that we take care of a couple simple items. Number one is just always use your brain, alright? And number two is think it through. Don't do anything without thinking it through, alright? So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the different parts of this machine. It's important to know the different parts so we can speak the same language. So we'll start from the bottom. Down here at the bottom, this machine has some legs. These legs, we're going to call that the base of the machine. So everything that touches the ground for all these machines is always going to be called the base. Coming up from there, we have this crank. And this crank right here actually raises and lowers the blade, so this is the height adjustment. Alright? Coming up from the height adjustment, we have this flat surface, and almost always that flat surface is going to be called the table, and that's exactly what this is called. Connected to that table is this piece right here, this piece of wood, that is called a fence, just like a fence that you might have around a building or a house or a yard. Okay, so fence. Then we have this black handle, which is exactly what we're going to be calling it. That is the handle. That allows us to pull the saw out and push the saw back in. And the part that actually does all the cutting is this red blade. So that is a blade. Okay. We also have the power switch, so the on and off switch. And this machine has a couple of other adjustments, which we don't need to necessarily know about because I'll be helping with that. We can tilt the blade this way and that way. And we can also take this entire arm and we can spin it 90 degrees this way and 90 degrees that way. That's a more complicated issue, and we'll deal with that whenever we need to do that on a one-on-one basis. Okay? So that is the machine for right now. So the next thing that we need to take care of is we need to figure out exactly how to use this machine. All right? Before we use any machine, we got to take care of a couple of safety items. Number one, always wear your safety glasses. You'll probably notice that there was a split in the video, and that was because I had to go get my safety glasses. Next thing is, make sure that your shirt is tucked in. The next thing is, you can't wear any long sleeve or jackets or anything like that. We always need to see from your elbows to the tips of your fingers. The next thing that you got to take care of is make sure you're not wearing any dangling jewelry like necklaces, earrings, lanyards, watches, rings, anything that can get hung up in the machine. And the last thing, which of course I don't have this problem, is you always have to make sure that you tie your hair back. You don't want your hair getting caught in the machine. Okay? After you've taken care of that, always the very next step is you've got to have some sort of plan. Your plan is going to be something that you come up with when you are at your table. So my plan is I'm going to take this piece of wood, this is just a random piece of scrap wood, and I've measured a measurement and I've marked it exactly where I want to cut it. So that's the plan. So I know I'm going to come over to this machine and I'm going to make a 90-degree cut onto this piece of wood. So once I've figured that out, I'm going to come over to the machine. I've got my mark because I made my measurement. Before I deal with anything at the machine, I'm going to find this tool, which is called a square. I'm going to take this square, grab the handle, which is the kind of heavier, bulkier end, and I'm going to bring that handle flat to the top of the piece of the wood. This other part, which looks like a ruler, is going to be perpendicular to the handle, and I'm going to line it up with my mark. I'm going to take my pencil, and I'm going to draw a line, which is a 90-degree angled line from the top. So this is the path that the blade needs to follow. Okay? Once I've done that, I'm going to take a look at this machine. I want to make sure that it's off. The blade's not spinning, nothing's moving, so we're good there. The next thing that I want to do is clear off the table. I want to make sure that there's no sawdust caught in between the table and the fence because that's going to prevent us from getting a 90-degree cut that we're looking for. Once I've done that, I notice that this machine is connected to this yellow pipe system. Any of the machines in this shop that are connected to this yellow pipe system, that's a great thing because these yellow pipes are going to be basically a vacuum, sucking up all the sawdust as we cut. That way you have less sweeping up and cleaning to do. Now I'm not actually going to turn on the dust collection system because it's too loud for this video, But that would be the very next thing that I do. I would walk over to the corner of the room and I would turn on the dust collection system and I would make sure that the door is open. Okay, so all that's done, except I'm not actually going to turn it on. Once I've taken care of that, I'm going to grab the piece of wood and I'm going to slide it up against the fence. I want it to set flat up against the fence. If it's not flat up against the fence, we are going to be in a dangerous situation because that piece of wood is not being held firmly against something. The blade is going to try to throw it back that way. So I'm going to hold it up against the fence and I'm just going to kind of eye it by pulling the blade out a little bit, and I'm going to find out exactly where does that blade touch that line. Keep in mind that the blade is 1/8 of an inch thick, so if I cut on top of the line, I'm going to take away part of the piece that I want to keep and part of the piece that I don't want to keep. So usually you're either going to have the whole blade to the right of the line or the whole blade to the left of the line. That's something that you need to think about before you actually start cutting. So I'm going to line up my blade, and I think that's a good spot right there. I'm not ready to turn it on though. I'm going to double check, make sure that the piece of wood is flat up against the fence. Then I'm going to take a look at the table. I can see this line, or this cut line in the table. That's where that blade's going. I want to make sure that my fingers are not crossing that line at all. There's actually 2 red lines on this table that kind of tell me kind of a danger zone. So I want to keep my hands out of that danger zone and away from the cut line. Once I've taken care of that, I'm going to make sure everything seems to be okay. The height of the blade is correct because I checked that earlier. Now I'm ready to cut. So I'm going to turn on the machine, grab onto the handle nice and tightly, and I'm going to hold on to the piece of wood against the fence, and I'm going to slowly, because it's not a race, I'm going to slowly bring the blade forward to cut my piece of wood. So here I go. I've cut all the way through. Now I'm going to push the blade all the way back. Once it's all the way back, I'm going to turn the machine off. Okay? Once I've turned the machine off, I can take this piece of wood, no problem. But that smaller chunk of wood is kind of stuck real close to that blade, so I don't want to go and grab it until the blade has come to a complete stop. Just like I never want to move away from a machine until it has come to a complete stop to make sure that nobody else gets hurt. So, blade is stopped. Now I've got my piece of wood. That's trash. I'm just going to throw it away. So, I've finished using the machine. It's off. I'd probably go turn off the dust collector. But before I do that, I would make sure I want to sweep up the area, pick up any sawdust. Usually sawdust will fly behind the machine, and that's something that you don't notice until you walk around it. So, really simple machine, not complicated, but you got to make sure that you're always using your brain. You're thinking it through. And you need to make sure that whenever you can, always do the right thing. Take it easy, guys.